Welcome viewers to the Founder Talk Show. I am your host Aishwarya Nair. Now, for all the Gen Z population out there who cannot perform pujas at home in the traditional way, Pujyo is your one-stop shop solution. Joining me today on the show is Dr. Sridevi Yadavalli, founder of Pujyo. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sridevi.
Thank you, Aishwarya. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And hello to all the viewers of My Startup TV.
So, Dr. Sridevi, tell us something about your startup and what was the idea behind setting it up?
Idea was born out of first of all an enthusiasm and a zeal to to have a startup which is unique, and secondly to be able to help community at large, because I work for a not-for-profit hospital, and this ethos of helping community help themselves is deeply ingrained in my work ethos. So that's where the idea was born. And then growing up in a family which is steeped in tradition, I've had a pretty traditional upbringing, and I've also married into a family which is deeply steeped in religious upbringing, and we've seen people around us. This is a particular service, the puja service. The community that offers this service is very surprisingly untouched by technology, and we thought that it would be very right for us to try and leverage technology to help this community so that they can help themselves and help the society at large, where the society that has a need for these services, no matter where you are or what you do in life, you will always have a need for a puja service.
Okay, so how does this application work and how is it beneficial for the new generation or the Gen Z population as we call ourselves?
Historically, India has always had a joint family system, um, at least till a couple of generations back. And we've always had somebody elderly in the house who advised us on how to go about these. And the youngsters carried on that tradition, more or less, sort of apprenticing under the elders. But then no longer. We all have our own jobs now, and we're busy with the life, which with different priorities, and it's extremely difficult to make time to learn these little nuances that were so integral in our upbringing as children. And then every now and then, when you have a festival occasion, when you have a family get together, you get nostalgic, about craving about those little familiar scenes that were so much a part of our upbringing. And it happens with all of us. We have life events, births, milestones, and weddings, and every celebration, puja is a part of it. At least it used to be a part of it, and you crave to bring that back. And I think even the Gen Z, those of us who are um, agnostic, I wouldn't say atheist, agnostic at least, you do have some members of the family who want to have a ritual, traditional puja, and you have to sort of get into that act to just to keep the family tradition alive and to keep certain family members happy. And you don't have any clue on how to go about this, because the supply, this is the demand end. Now the supply end is equally bad in the sense, like, it's unregulated first of all, and you have a lot of these youngsters among the pujari clan who are not taking to the profession because it doesn't pay them enough. Many of them are so impoverished in life that they're reduced to extreme poverty. It is pathetic, and the pandemic has been very bad on them, because all those services that were able to get online benefited actually from the pandemic in the long run, but not this particular community. They've continued to languish, and there was this need on our part to try and address that gap.
Okay, so how are you addressing this gap between the pujaris and the demand for pujas and the income gap that they are facing because of the pandemic?
So that's a challenge. We it's easy enough to say let's make an app, but then the challenges are, and how do you train a community of service professionals who are totally untouched by the digital age, who do not understand how to use smartphones, who do not, most of them do not even use mobiles effectively. For instance, if I ask a pujari to give me a list of the puja samagri that I would require for a particular puja, he would write it down by hand, photograph that, and send it to me. And how do I digitize or itemize such a list? Now, these are challenges that I faced when it was very easy to ideate on, because there is a need. That's a need which everybody understands. And so we thought, okay, there's a need, so let's do this. But then getting around to doing it has its own set of problems, own set of challenges. And we've been trying and resolving each one of them. The biggest of them being educating the Pujari community on how to use smartphones.
And for the bachelors living away from their families, how will this Pujyo service, connect them to their tradition and culture, and not make them feel like you said, no, we feel the nostalgia out there.
In a typical scenario, say if I'm sitting in my office and I have Dashera coming up, and I know that I'll have some extended family members dropping by, or even otherwise, I have children at home, and I want them to be exposed to the kind of culture that I was exposed to while growing up. So I want to host a puja. Typically, now I have no clue on how to begin doing this. I have to either ask my mother or my mother-in-law to help, and then they would be in some other city and not know who are the pujaris available in my city. And I have to make the time to find a pujari who is good at his job, who will give me a very satisfying experience. And secondly, I'll have to make the time again to go and buy find out the list of samagri that I would require, the items that would go into the puja, and go and purchase them. And so all of this requires so much of time. It's so daunting, in fact, that I chicken out, and then I decide that okay, let's not do this, and maybe do this some other time when there is a more urgent need for doing it. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Right now, let me just chill and enjoy my holiday. So this is the tendency for most of us who are working professionals. Now, I thought that it's not just me. We are a bunch of people who got together to ideate this, most of them being my family members, the youngsters in the family. So they thought that it would be a good idea to have this app which facilitates all of this at the click of a button. You get to choose the puja that you want, and then you get to connect to the pujari who's closest to you. So it's geolocalized, and that pujari responds by accepting to do the puja, and then you make the payment, and then you can use GPS to track the pujari who's going to be on his way on the appointed date and time. And if you also want the puja samagri, the list is supplied to you, and you can choose to have that door delivered. Or if you're the kind who does traditional puja occasionally, you might have some items already at home, so you can choose the items that you want to supplement what you already have, and then have those supplied to you.
And for a unique service like Pujyo, what does the future look like, and what other services do you plan to add going forward?
Well, the potential is huge. Like I mentioned earlier in response to one of your questions, that pujas traditionally in Indian homes, at least nowadays, are a part of an event. So you can link up event management services eventually. Have a plethora of vendors supplying event management services, catering services. So the potential is huge. And as of now, the market study that we did, it tells us that these are things that you sort of find out word of mouth, who's good and who would recommend in your family and friend circle or professional circles, and go by that. And if you had an app that gives you all of these with ratings, with feedback, with reviews, I'm sure people will take to it a little, with more credentials established.
What will be the cost of this service?
The cost of the service is what is already the market call. If you were to call a pujari now, whatever he would charge you is what the app will charge you. It's no more and no less. In fact, there's going to be a kind of transparency in the pricing, because as of now there is no transparency in what a pujari is going to charge you. It could range anywhere. It depends upon your knowledge and your experience of having hosted a puja. So, and you have no knowledge of exactly what it would cost normally for any other person. So, I think putting a price, a tariff to the particular service, that itself gives you a kind of a rationale on the pricing.
So finally, coming to My Startup TV, we are an online TV channel for startups and budding entrepreneurs. What are your views on our channel?
I think this is a startup idea that will benefit from my exposure on your TV. And when you reached out to me, I, of course, the first thing I do, like most users, went online to look up on exactly what this TV channel is all about, and I was pretty impressed. And I think this is a great idea. A startup TV idea is also a startup, and I liked that idea.
Thank you so much for joining.